Hi everyone, my name is Aviad. I'm a senior developer at Oracle, and in this video I would like to show you how you can easily create an RPA flow that adds a new sales order to your Oracle EBS test system, where the order lines are being read from a CSV file. To do that, we will first create a few APIs to interact with the Oracle EBS test system, and then we will use our RPA editor to integrate it into a full flow that reads the lines from the CSV and create the full sales order. So to create the APIs with the Oracle EBS against the Oracle EBS system, we will be using our recorder studio. This is our recording studio, and we will invoke the forms recorder. We just press here the launch button, and we will put here a name for the service that we want to create. So we'll call it for now DM create sales order. We will also put here the URL of the form that goes directly into the sales order module in your Oracle EBS system. And this will invoke the Oracle EBS UI and will get us directly to the sales order module. And just to make it easy for us, we will put it side by side. On one side, we will put the UI that we are recording, and on the other side, we will put our recorder that runs on the background. And now all I need to do is to do the flow as I was a simple user that is trying to create a new sales order. So the first thing would be to put the credentials, and any field that I will type in a value inside it will automatically become an input of this API that I'm creating right now. So the username and the password will already capture the input parameters. Now I will type in some more values that I need for the mandatory fields, like the customer name and the order type. And at this point, I will press the save button. This will create the sales order header for me, and I want to take out the order number as the output parameter. So I will to do that, all I need to do is just to focus on the field, and this will make it an output parameter. I can also use this capture parameters button to take all the fields on the window and make them outputs. But if I just want to pick some of the fields, the way to do it is just to focus on them. So I'll go now to the lines section, but before I continue with the lines, I will add here a bookmark that says that I've already created the header. You will see later how I'm using this bookmark to create my RPA flow, or to create the APIs for the RPA flow. So right now, until now, all I did was to create the header, and now I will just add one line to this sales order. So I'll go here, put here some item number, put here some quantity. I'll also change the price so it will be marked as an input, and I will press the save button. So right now I've recorded a flow, one flow that creates a header of a new sales order and adds one line. To make out of it an RPA flow that will create a sales order with any number of lines, I would need to split this flow, this static flow, into two APIs. I will create one API that creates the header and another API that adds one line. And this API that adds one line, I will put it in an iteration that will create a new line for each line from the CSV file. We will see it in a minute how it goes. So I will create two APIs out of this recorded flow, and to do that all I need to do is to press the save workflow button. And the first API I will say I want to create from start to header created. I will call it create sales order header. And you will be able to see here the new API that is going to be created. You can see here only the inputs that are required for this part of the flow. And you can also see here the first output, the order number that comes out of the flow. So I'll just create it. And I want to create another flow, which is adding a line. So I'll press the save workflow again. And now I want to start from the header created and go to the end. And I will call it create, not header, but add line. Add line, like this. So now I have another service. It only gets the inputs for creating a new line, and it is also marked as partial API because this API cannot just be invoked by itself. It is a continuous API that just continue a flow that started before. The flow that started before would be creating the header, and then I can call this one to add a line later on. Sorry, call it again to add more lines. So now I'll just press the create header, and I will have a new API called DM create sales order add lines. Add line, sorry. So let's see what we've got so far. We have created two APIs for our RPA. One is for creating the header and one is for adding a line. Let me open our service manager again. On a home browser, I rather work with it here. Here are the new APIs that I've just created. And to make an RPA out of it, what I need to do is to go to our RPA section, the automation section, and create a flow out of these two APIs. So I'll go here, I will press the plus sign and say that I want to create sales order. Let's call it sales order RPA. And now I have a visual editor here on the left side where I can put and create my flow. And I need to press here the plus button to add any building block that I want. And as you can see here, we have a few options here. We can call a service. We can call an external service to integrate with other systems. We can add conditions, send mail, manipulate files, loop over things, or add business logic through JavaScript code. What we will do right now is just to start with adding the first service that we want to call, which will be the demo create order header. Will be the first step in our flow. So for this one, I will just add the RPA and all the inputs will become the inputs of the whole RPA. Another thing that I will do right now is just to set the keep alive checkbox here, which means that I know that I don't want just to create the order and end the session with the Oracle EBS. I know that some more APIs are coming, the headline API, so I want to keep the session open. So I'll just press here the keep alive session. And now I want to iterate over the CSV file and add the lines accordingly. So I have created a simple CSV file. Here it is, with a few items, as you can see here. And I will be using the CSV file to iterate over it and create the new lines. You can see that I have here items, quantity, prices, and I can just use it for the RPA flow. So let's go back to the RPA flow. And here on the plus button, I will choose now a loop because I want to iterate over the file. And we have few types of loop. I will choose the CSV file, a loop, which means a loop that iterates over a CSV file. And here I will just upload the file. So I will go here, select the file that I want to upload. It is. Here is the one that we saw before. Now it was uploaded. I can say that the first line is a header because this is what I've created in my file. I will also set it as an input to the whole RPA. So when I will execute this RPA, I will be able to choose different files for this RPA. So I will set this checkbox as well. And now inside the loop, I will say that I want to create the service that adds a line. So here I will choose the DM the demo create sales order add line. I will add it here. And I can see that for this service I have three inputs: the order item, the quantity, and the unit price. And I don't want them to be inputs of the whole RPA. I want them to be taken from the CSV file. So the way to do that is to press here, say that I want to select a value from a previous step. My previous step would be the loop. I can see here that the CSV loop has already parsed my CSV file, and it identified a few columns here: the item column, the quantity, and the price. For the ordered item, I will choose the item column. For the price, I will say, for the quantity, I will choose the quantity, and for the price, of course, I will select the price. And I've also set the keep alive because after each invocation of this add line, I still want to keep the session open because I know that more lines are going to be added to this flow. And the last thing I would do, I will go here to the top of this RPA flow, and I'll go to the process output section. You see here that here I have all the potential outputs that comes out of the services. I only have here one, but sometimes I have many outputs that comes out of the services that I am using, and I don't want all of them to be outputs of the RPA. So I can just mark which ones are important for me, and in my case it would be the order number because I want it to be presented as the output of this RPA. And that's it. I'll just press here the save. And now I can test to see if this RPA is executing correctly. To do that, I can just press here the test button, and this will invoke my RPA. Once I'm running this RPA, you can see here on the left that I can see the steps that this RPA is going through. You can see that it created a header, and then you can see here that it added 4 lines. We can see it while it's running, and by the time it finishes, I will get here the results of the invocation. You can see here the new order number that was created and all the status message bar, all the status bar messages that came back from the form itself. You can see here all the creations of the record. This is coming out of the API automatically. So let's take this number and go back to our Oracle forms just to make sure it was really created. So here I see the new sales order that was created. I will open it, go to the lines, and I can see here the 4 lines that were created for me. Sorry. So my RPA is complete. I have an RPA that can be used, and there are a few ways to invoke this RPA. What we saw right now is just running it through the creation and the debugging process. But now that I want to run it again and again, there are a few places where I can run it from. I can go to my RPA section, just refresh it to see the new RPA that we have created. Let's see, here it is. This is the RPA that we have created, and I can just press on the run button. This will open me a one-page application with all the inputs that are relevant to this RPA. One of them, of course, is the file that I'm processing. So if I click here, I can choose any file that I want, of course, with the proper structure, and use it to create my new sales order. I can press the execute. It will run the RPA again, and I will get a new sales order that was created for me. So one way to invoke the RPA is what we're calling attended RPA, and it's just to take this URL, put it in a browser, get this one page, and execute the RPA. We have other ways to run an RPA and unattended ways to run it. This is being done through the triggers section here. We can create 2 types of triggers to execute an RPA. It can be either a scheduled trigger, which means that we will add this RPA to a scheduler and it will be run again and again at any period of time that we will create. On a scheduled RPA, we can decide if we want to run it only once on specific date, or we want to run it repeatedly and say on which days we want to run it, every what time period we want to run it, etc. So this is one one way to run an unattended RPA. And the other way to do that, another option to do that, sorry, is to choose the email triggered RPA. The email triggered RPA is an RPA that enables you to send an email to the system with specific template, and the system will process this email and invoke the RPA. This is an example of a trigger RPA to execute the create sales order RPA. You can see here that I can set here some filters on from which recipients I enable my system to get this kind of emails. And I can also set here a special subject that will be identified and matched to this RPA. I can integrate parameters inside my subject saying that from this subject take the customer name from this place. And of course I can also add an attachment, which would be in our case the CSV file to be processed. And for example, if I will go here, we can see an example of an email that I've created and sent to my service manager system. You can see how it looks. I'm saying create sales order for, this is the customer name, this is the attachment that I want to be processed. And once it is being processed, I can get one of these two options. I can get an email saying that a new sales order was created successfully and this is the new number, or I can configure my RPA to say that in case of a failure, sorry, I can also configure my RPA to say that in case of a failure, I will get an email saying failed to create sales order, and this was the message that I got back from the EBS system. In this case, I tried to process a new sales order with a PO that was already created in the system. So I can take my RPA and use it in a different ways. I can invoke it in an attended way or in unattended way using a scheduler or email triggers that will interact with the user that is sending my RPA. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention.